And so now I have the pleasure of introducing Angela Tucker. Angela is a transracial adoptee, host of the Adoptee Next Door podcast, and has produced 5 short films about adoption. She's the founder of the Adoption Mentoring Society and consulted with the writers of season 5 of This Is Us. She's also supported the lead actor for the Broadway musical Jagged Little Pill. Angela has also authored her first book, which will be released in April 2023. And I'll share that link for Angela's website in the chat. Thank you for being here, Angela.
Thank you for having me. Hello to all the familiar faces. Thank you so much, Betsy and Ty. Always grateful for the way that you support adoptees. And I want to share just a little bit before we get going, a little backstory of this film. Please excuse my voice a little bit. I am under the weather, which makes me grateful for virtual screenings. Usually I'm not that grateful for virtual. I'd rather be in person, but we wouldn't be able to do this if it were in person. So I hope I don't sneeze, but this film, Lisa and Isell.
You want to put a wager on it? I bet you $5. No, I ain't betting.
Was that for me? I'm not sure. Probably came off mute accidentally, but this film, let's see, Lisa is an adult adoptee who connected with me wanting to join some of the adoptee lounges that I host, which is Zoom space for adoptees of certain age groups to come together, and they're just magical. I facilitate these groups through my mentoring society. And she was very excited to join 1 month last September, I believe. She had signed up September and October. That meant I had to do a little bit of missing with our schedule because Lisa lives in Italy. And so in order to make that work, I needed to change the time for everybody. And so we just went back and forth, figured it out. And then she emailed me and said, I'm so sorry. We went through all that with the rescheduling for everyone, and I found my birth dad, and so I can't come to the Adoptee Lounge after all. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay, no problem. And then talking about it, she asked a lot of questions of me since I had searched for my birth parents and trying to prep for that. And throughout that course of the conversation, she asked if I might want to film it. And I was excited because she had been using kind of her own camera to video record different snippets of her search for her birth mom and different things. And so as a filmmaker, I knew that we had some other good footage that I could use along with this moment. And so that's kind of how this came to be. I don't want to say any more. I think I should just get it started and then look forward to having a dynamic conversation after the film. I think I have all the settings correct so that I can mute myself and still you can hear the video, but if that's not the case, please let me know right away in the chat and I'll fix that. Okay, here we go. How old were you when Lisa was born?
I was 28.
About 2 months after she was born, you went to the adoption agency to try to find her.
Yeah.
And they said, she's been adopted.
She's gone. Yeah, she's been adopted.
Will you call him Dad when you meet him?
I've been calling him Dad on the phone, and it
has felt right.
The first conversations, I didn't call him Dad. The first couple of conversations, and then it just felt okay. And I saw that it made him happy, which made me happier to do it.
Yeah, I feel a little nervous.
There they are. Oh my gosh. This is very exciting. We are taking the very first step in finding out something about my life before I was adopted. Isell is taking me to the place where I can get my original birth certificate. This is a great law that was passed here in Colorado, that all the closed adoptions are open now, and you can get your original birth certificate. I won't get it today, but it's
I've been working in adoption for over a decade, and throughout that time, I often hear from adopted people. Lisa was one of those people who reached out to me because she was searching for her biological family. As I got to know Lisa, I was really sad to learn that she had been rehomed, that she'd been adopted twice. Her first adoptive parents terminated their own parental rights, brought her back to the adoption agency, and then she was adopted again. Learning all of that, it made total sense why she had decided to move across the world, settling in Italy, where she lives now. But just like me, she has spent much of her adult life wondering about her biological family and trying to find her roots.
It's here. I can't believe it's here. I cannot believe it's here.
So many people don't know that adoptees do not get our original birth certificates. We actually get a birth certificate that has been altered to make it look like our adoptive parents gave birth to us. Gradually, over time, state by state, their laws have changed around this, and I was so excited to see Lisa and follow her journey on her YouTube channel, where she goes to get her original birth certificate in Colorado.
And then it has the date of birth and everything. It has my mother's maiden name, which was Shirley D. Small, and my father's name, which was Isell Denson.
Through this, she found her birth mother's name and was able to reunite with her, with Shirley.
Where are we going?
We are going to go meet your mom.
Oh my God!
Birth mom.
Yes, I was. Shirley named Isell Denson as Lisa's biological father. So Lisa set out to find him, and she did. And after she found him, she wrote me and invited me to come with her to meet her in Tampa, Florida, to be a support emotionally for her and to document this journey. So at 55 years old, Lisa flew from Italy to Tampa. I flew from Seattle to Tampa to meet this man, Isell. How old were you when Lisa was born?
I was 28, yeah. And her mother was 22 or 23, something like that.
How old are you now?
I'm 84.
84.
Yeah. She's my daughter that I never had.
So you would call the agency every once in a while. Your son would try online to find Shirley.
And I don't know what we would have found when we found Shirley. Probably she didn't know where she was either, you know. I was imagining that I would track her down and then I would walk up to this house, and then I would wonder, should I go or not go, you know. And then I would see a family there and all that. And I wouldn't know whether she would, you know, accept me too, you know. All this time, finding her in Colorado Springs, or anywhere, I would have tried to make contact with her and tried to come see her, you know, I would have.
How did it feel knowing that you were looking for her, and then in her adulthood, she was looking for you?
Yeah. We just missed each other some kind of way, you know. Sure did. It made me feel a little bad, but, you know, I kept thinking about it over and over again.
What would you think about? Just where is she? Who's raising her? Is she having a good life? Birth fathers are often really overlooked by society and by adoption agencies. I remember growing up, I really focused more on my birth mom and not my birth father so much. I think this is due in part to the low expectations we have for men, and especially Black men, that the assumption is that they don't want to be part of their children's lives and that they don't care. For me, my birth father, Sandy, learned that he was a father at the age of 54 because his rights were terminated without him even knowing. And now here's Isell, who's 85 years old, and he's about to meet Lisa. I can't wait to go talk to Lisa and just see how she is handling all of this.
Oh my God, it's so great.
Oh my.
When I first started searching, I was really interested in Shirley and my mother, because that's the thing, the same way that you were, like I was in her body. And when I thought of my father, I did assumed that, you know, and there's a good friend of mine that I have to mention is Millie Chen, who made me think about this wonderful artist, when she said, why didn't you try harder and longer to look for him? Why did you assume that he was dead? And I think that's a really good question. Why did I assume the worst?
Tell me a little bit. Did you
best?
search for him for a little while?
I did. I searched.
Then...
So I got my birth certificate, right? My birth certificate 3 years ago. And I Googled his name, and there's only one, Isell Denson.
Very unique name.
So I thought that's got to be him, right? But I wasn't able to get in touch with him. I left some messages and sent some emails, and then there was the, what is it? Can't remember the name right now, this is me being tired, but there's the registry.
The Putative Father Registry?
No, Soundex.
Soundex, the ISSR?
Yes, that's
International
it.
Soundex Registry.
Yeah, that's it.
Something, yes.
Something like that, yeah. One of them a woman from the registry emailed me and said, you know, your father looked for you in the 90s. And so that was, of course, already amazing for me to hear.
That.
Yes,
Wow.
and I almost thought that's enough. Like, at least I know
because what
he thought about me. Well, I didn't know if he knew about me. I didn't know if he cared. That was some kind of
proof
that he had looked for me.
He knew you were alive. He wanted you. You knew that at that moment.
I have anticipation. Kind of nervous.
Yes.
Yeah.
There they are. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you don't hit your head.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm asking God what took him so long to bring us together.
Yeah.
So
Look at you with your U.S. Air Force veteran hat on. Yeah. And look at how great you look. You want to come inside where it's cool?
Yeah.
It's so hot out here. Can I get you some water or some...
Yeah, some water be fine.
Yeah? Just water. Regular water you want?
Regular
or
water.
Nothing special? Okay.
Nothing special.
Do you want a piece of cheese or a cracker?
I just ate some crackers.
You did? Okay, so
yeah.
you're okay.
We stopped at one of these kind of drugstore.
I can't believe you're here.
Got some crackers.
I can't believe it.
Peanut butter. Yeah. I'm fine, though.
I'm glad.
Fine.
I'm glad.
So, just want to enjoy you a little bit.
Oh, gosh.
Through the years. I understand you sing, too.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good.
You know I do.
Yeah.
You know I do.
I'm ready to sing To God Be the Glory.
Yeah. I love that video
fine.
of you singing in church.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
it's really beautiful.
Okay.
Here we go. Do you want to sit down?
Yeah, we can sit.
We can sit here or here, whatever you prefer.
Well,
Let's go out down there.
That's a great place to
Isn't
sit.
it? I think
Yeah.
so too. That was my same impulse.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you're here.
I don't want to.
I'm sorry I made you come so long. I wanted to come to you, but I will come to you next week, and there won't be any cameras, and it'll just be us.
Okay.
Whenever you
Okay.
want me to. But yeah, maybe I'll sit beside you.
Okay. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Amazing Grace.
That's great. It's so beautiful.
The sun is shining
We're in a garden,
in the garden.
under the tree. We've got all these animals coming to say hello. Come get some apple from my daddy.
Yeah. Not my finger. Take it. Not my finger. Oh man. That's a much of a bite, too much of a bite for you. You got 2 gulps. Now you want some more.
He's kind of fat, huh?
Yeah, he's big. Big, he gonna bite your leg now.
He knows we don't have any more food for him. I want to thank you for looking for me when I was small. I never did say thank you
Yeah.
for
Well,
doing that. That's
I'm sorry for being a failure, but I'm
Well,
happy that you're.
not a failure.
I'm happy that your cousin. She never. How did that happen?
So that happened that she found Sammy, who is Shirley's youngest sister, okay? Because she was
Sammy.
also adopted.
At some point there, they should have went back to the record. They would saw my message.
They should have. It's a failing of the system.
And having my name, Isell, which
Yeah.
I grew up saying Ezell.
Right. But for
It's
the military,
only-
it became Isell.
Right. And there's no other name like that in the United States of America.
When I went to look for you, you're the only one who came up.
Only one.
You're the only one.
Only one.
How could they not look for you when I came
Right.
back? I should have been with you. We would have
Right.
gone to
6
Alaska.
years
We could have
old.
gone to Alaska
That's
together.
Right. That's right. That's right.
We could have done so many things.
Oh yeah, it would just been you and me. I probably wouldn't have had another life, you know. It was just you and me. Shoot, I didn't need anybody else.
Aw, that's such
You
a
know?
sweet thing to say.
Yeah, it was just you and me.
I used to listen to albums, when we had vinyl records on the stereo, and I would see that record cover of Marvin Gaye,
Yeah,
and I would think about you,
Yeah.
and I would think about the fact that my daddy is not afraid to be black,
right.
like my adoptive father is.
That's right.
He's not afraid of it. And that was my vision of you for all those years. I held that in my mind.
Yeah.
And when I saw that picture of you,
Yeah.
I said, yeah, there's something. There's something there. He's got that swag.
Brother. There's too many of you dying. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my memory. There's an expression for it that they say
Yeah.
for adopted children.
Yeah.
When adopted children try to imagine their family,
Yeah,
it's called a
right.
ghost kingdom.
The ghost.
Ghost kingdom.
Ghost syndrome. Yeah.
So in my ghost kingdom.
What?
Kingdom.
Kingdom.
Ghost kingdom.
Ghost kingdom.
So
okay.
in my ghost kingdom, Marvin Gaye was you.
Yeah.
And I would give him all these characteristics of the strong black man
Yeah.
taking care of business and peaceful and like everything you are.
Yeah.
I really imagined
Yeah.
in when I was a little girl. You know,
Yeah.
and it's strange that I didn't really think too much about Shirley, but I definitely had you. I held you in my heart when I was a little girl.
Is that right?
I sure
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I'm so
I sure did.
So sorry.
Oh no, you don't have to be sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. I thought about you. I thought about you a lot.
Yeah.
Wondered where you were and hoped I'd see you one day. And now the day has come, and I'm so glad. And it doesn't, you know,
Yeah.
Those years don't matter. You don't need to have any regret for them because we're here now.
Yeah, we're here now and span those 55 years. Yeah, bring them to not a closure, but we can go forward from here.
Yeah.
Not a closure. Never be a real closure because you miss out on so many birthdays, so many happy occasions. Yeah, it's a lot.
I gotta say, I love your jeans. I just saw that they're Levi's jeans. Those are some snazzy jeans that you got on.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
They're great.
Yeah.
I kind of want to just get a beach chair and sit out there. I love going to the beach.
Yeah. Would you just take off
You
your
can smell-
shoes and go in the water?
Oh gosh.
You don't want to do that.
Not right now. Well, I'm very tempted, honestly.
Walking my baby back home.
Yeah, I know that one too.
You know that one too?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Pistachio.
She's from Italy. And I'm from Tampa, Florida.
Family? Are you family?
Yeah, that's my daughter. Newfound daughter.
We just found each other.
Recently reunited.
Today is the first day.
You're gonna make me cry, darling.
She's also
You're so cute.
got on my shades.
Got rid of the bad.
Yeah, got rid of the bad knee. You leaving now?
I am, and so are you.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, man. Very good day.
Oh, I'm all smelly and nasty and sweaty.
Me too.
But I love you.
I
I
love
love
you.
you so much. I'm so happy for and grateful for this day. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. We're so lucky.
Very lucky.
We're such lucky people.
I'm asking God, what took you so long? What took you so long?
All right, I'll see
Okay.
you tomorrow afternoon.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Reunions are so complex. It's really tempting to just say, how beautiful, or I'm just so glad they found each other. But in reality, it's a tragedy. It's a failure of the system, and it's really frustrating because the people who failed Lisa and Isell are not here now to make reparations for time lost. I spent less than 10 years with my birth father before he passed away. And although those years were joyous, it's really hard for me not to wonder what it would have been like had we known each other sooner. And sometimes as I'm wondering about this, I'll admit I actually just start feeling angry.
Nice to meet you too.
This is my really good friend Angela. This is Shirley.
Hi. I want a hug because I just love your daughter.
Oh, I love her too. Good to see you.
Oh my goodness. Crazy beautiful. I told him yesterday that in my ghost kingdom, he was Marvin Gaye. Oh! I was like, that Marvin Gaye is who he makes me think of. And the other thing that we talked about yesterday is that my adoptive father, Arthur, he called him an Oreo. I don't like the term, but he was, he was not interested in being Black. You know, he married his white wife, he lived in a white community, and he didn't think about, or he had problems with his identity, right?
Yeah.
And he did not abuse us physically, but you both know that my mother did, right?
Yeah.
And so
I know that it was the 1970s, and so it was a different time, and certainly there was more spanking, more corporal punishment. But she went beyond that. You know, she like would break wooden spoons over us and use the belt end of the buckle, you know, of the belt. So I think it was more than even for the 70s, and he stood by and watched it and allowed it. So I used to say, when I was little, I didn't have the words, but I used to say, well, my real daddy would not do that. He wouldn't let that happen, and he would stand up, and I know my real daddy is a strong Black man and a proud Black man. And then I said, I know my real mommy would never bring, you know, blood, like beat me till I'm bloody. I know she would never do that, and I know. And it's fun, and the beautiful thing is, you know, this morning I thought, I had those thoughts when I was a little girl, and now I know you both, and it's true, you know, and I know it's true. I know that if I had lived in your house, you would have been a strong, protective, beautiful father, and I know that you would have been a loving, caring mother. So I already knew you. I already loved you when I was a baby, and that's what I wanted you to know. And I wanted you to know that love, that I carried that love in my heart for you all these years, and somehow I knew you. You know, that was like my thought this morning, that I wanted to tell you. I wanted you to know.
Thank you, but that would never happen.
I know.
There are adoption agencies who still are gonna block out people like Isell and say, yeah, you want your daughter, but this
We
family.
have a system. We've got a system in
Yes.
place, and you're not part of it.
Right.
Yeah. The system failed, and we should be angry about that, and we should be trying to change that.
And I'm
but
just-
once it's happened,
Yes. Yes.
what do you do?
Right.
It was an incredible feeling to be in between the two of them, and there was a really palpable feeling of love in that moment, in that room, and I'm so inspired by their courage in doing this and having this moment, because it wasn't easy for either one of them. It was hard for me because I didn't want to hurt them, and I didn't want, you know, I didn't want them to have those images in their head and like to add to their shame and grief. And so that's why that was really hard to do. Yeah, it hit me this morning. It hit me hard. And
And I think
And
I
that
see
happens,
both you and
you know?
Isell fumbling around with the words closure, opening. This is just an incredible, like it's all coming together. It's coming to an end. Wait, no, it's just started.
That's so true.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. I've already said thank you so many times to you, but I can't stop saying it. I can't stop saying
Lisa, give me some different side angle.
it. These are so cute.
Taking me to the car.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. And it's a new beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
All right.
God bless.
God bless you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
After my initial meeting with Isell, I had a beautiful, beautiful week with him. We grew even closer in that week. The very last morning, he said, I haven't really been sleeping since you've been in Florida because I just feel like I should have done more. And he said, you know, I know it's not a good thing or a nice thing to talk about, but I am in my 80s and I'm not going to last forever, and I want to make sure you're taken care of. Also, for my will, I would like to include you, but I don't want there to be any problems after I'm gone with anybody contesting it, the will or anything. And I interrupted him and I told him that's not why I looked for you. That's not what I needed from you. I just wanted to know you. And he said, it's not for you, it's for me. I said, okay. He said, let's take a DNA test because I want to make sure that you're taken care of. And so we did. It's crazy. When we walked into that room, we were both so sure of the fact that I was his and he was mine. We took the test, went back to the house and said our goodbyes. And then I got back here to Italy and got those results and found out that actually he's not my father. It's such a blow to have thought that you had a daughter. I mean, I've always thought I had a father and it's not him, but whereas he thought he had a daughter and he doesn't have one. When I got the first DNA result, my first reaction was anger, hurt at my mother that lasted a day. And then I thought about it, and then I thought, that's ridiculous. Why would I be? I've never been angry at her, and there's no reason to start now, and I'm sure that there was nothing nefarious, and I need to have compassion for her and the times that she was living in and the environment in which she grew up. And
what was her explanation?
She was shocked. She was shocked when I told her. She said, what? She just kept saying, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. And I felt horribly because then she had sleepless nights. She had a few sleepless nights and she kept texting me and apologizing. And then I could see she was embarrassed. And that's where I could see that shame came into it. And then I think in the first conversation, she said to me, you know, though, I always thought it was Isell, but I didn't put his name on your birth certificate. And I said, well, yes, you did. How else did I find his name? And so when I put down the phone with her, I looked at the birth certificate, which I have here, and the original birth certificate, where the father is left blank, okay? And on my first adoption is where Isell Denson's name is. So when he came, I'm assuming, looking for me at the hospital, then his name must have been inserted into the file. Another thing that's really telling is the fact that she has no memory of being pregnant with me. And I think that speaks to deep trauma. How much effort do I go following the bloodline? But I'm interested in it. That's why I started this. But I'm not interested anymore in finding this father figure because I feel like I found the one who was my father.
I was here at the house and she called and told me that it was, came back negative. And so that was pretty hard to take. It's more like post-traumatic stress. You go to something like that.
It feels like post-traumatic stress.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that makes you feel so connected to Lisa?
Well, it was the time I spent looking and thinking, dreaming. I said she was still my daughter. Every time you call me dad, something goes on up here.
Oh, the feelings. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Still, I said, you're still my daughter, no matter what.
That would be an interesting moment if she does find her biological father and for you to still be in that relationship too.
Right, it will be very interesting, but we just have to share. We just have to share.
I love that.
Hi, Dad! Hey! How are you? Oh, that's great. I'm at the top of Brescia, which is the city where I live, and I wanted to show it to you. But are you driving? Oh, don't worry. I'll just take a picture and send it to you. All right.
Hello. I hadn't seen the chat section until now. Well, I just thank you all for watching and going through that together. I'd love to have a conversation about the film. Please put your questions in the chat. I might also ask you to come off mute to ask whatever questions you have, and yeah, let's talk about it. Marty, I see your question. Is she searching for her biological father now? And what would reparations in the adoption system look like to me? Great question, Marty. I talk with Lisa often. And recently I asked her about this, are you still looking for your birth dad? And her answer is that she feels like she found the father. What does she say? She's found that father figure she's always longed for in Isell, is what she would say, what she has said. The way I heard her answer and what I pushed back against her when she said that was, it almost sounds like what I hear adult adoptees say when I ask when they talk about finding birth family, like adult adoptees who are maybe baby scoop era or older often talk about waiting until their adoptive parents pass until they search for their biological family. This idea of not wanting to hurt their adoptive parents' feelings kind of thing comes up a lot. And when Lisa told me this, I feel like it had that sort of ring to it. And so I asked her, do you feel like you're protecting Isell by not searching for your biological dad? And she emphatically said no. And I know Isell has been like, I want to be there when you find him and all of this. So she's kind of put that on pause, which is so interesting to me. It has led me also to ask her questions about one of the things I was a little afraid of when we made this film, which was that, and my husband and I made the film together. So Brian, my husband, and I, once she got those DNA results and had this reaction of, he's still my father, I was worried because I was like, okay, then is this film sending the message that love is all that matters? When I think many of you know, a lot of the work I do is about openness, is about keeping connections with biological family. I think it's absolutely crucial for adoptees in our development. And so what I had seen and watched, it felt like there was this intense bond between them, it was incredible. But the reason that Lisa was content with calling him father and at this point not looking for her biological dad seemed to echo what an adoptive father looks like. Like, she loved the fact that he thought about her for a long time, that he put effort into the relationship, even though they didn't know each other. And so I'm like, okay, it seems like you're kind of describing an adoptive dad who loves their child. And that's not always my message. My message really is that, yes, our adoptive parents can love us dearly, but that's not enough for us to really feel a whole true sense of self. So that's kind of where that discussion has gone. To answer the second half of your question, reparations in the adoption system, I'm actually doing a big project right now. And Lori Holden, who's on the call, is on one of the teams, the ethical this ethics committee, but there's a project that is called the Adoption Files Initiative, which is, I started this project really in a sense to make reparations for the system's harming of adoptees. This was, well, it's still going on, but essentially going through all of the files from 100-year adoption agency that has files in their storage room, because in Washington State, you're required to keep files for 99 years. And we're going through them and making sure that everything in those files is delivered to the correct people. There's a lot of stuff that can't go out of the agency walls, but then there's things like photos or baby, the bracelets you get when you're in the hospital that are just sitting collecting dust, or letters from birth parents to their child. Like there's a letter in the file that says, when my kid turns 18, please deliver this letter to them. And it sat there for 30 years because for many adoption agencies, there's no post-adoption program to look through these archives. And so one way I feel that agencies can make reparations is to face whatever is there. And, you know, a lot of people were really scared about this project that I was undertaking, afraid of lawsuits and things. And because it's really hard to tell the truth 30, 40 years later, or to give items that would have provided healing back then, and we didn't do it at the time. And so that's one of my approaches. It's facing the truth. It's there's been a lot of tricky files, and Lori can talk about it too, but you know, let's see, there was one where it was like 30 or 40 years ago, we didn't tell an adoptee that he was a product of incest. Now he's in his 40s and 50s. Do we tell him? And would that be more harmful or hurtful? And so I feel like it's our duty to tell the full truth and provide supports around people so that they can process and handle those truths. But how do we expect new adoptive parents to jump onto that message if we're not doing it in the agency level at ourselves? Okay, let me look at another question. I thought I saw Dee raising your hand, your virtual hand.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Oh, no, I just had a comment. I just wanted to say that this story like really resonated with me. I'm meeting my birth father tomorrow, and I met him last year for the first time.
Wow.
And it's a similar story, actually. I was told, I'm a late discovery adoptee, and I was told that my birth father was one man. And then I found out last year, 31 years later, I'm 54, I'm close in age with the woman in the film.
Yes.
Baby scoop era, I found out it was someone else. And we did do the DNA test, and we did paternity tests. So it was just resonating with me the whole time. So
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah,
I just wanted to share that. So
thank you.
Yeah.
What other questions do folks have? Please raise your digital hand. Renisha, it's Renisha, hi. It's interesting you started the beginning about this perceived disconnect to birth fathers. Do you know of biology that explains this, or is it cultural perception? I wish I knew more research about this. You know, so much is said about the primal wound theory, you know, perhaps when we know that the adoption field in general is saturated with women at agency level, adoptees who are speaking out, birth parents, usually it's birth moms that are speaking the adoptees who I mentor are like 80% girls and women. And I too have been really curious about this, but I have often felt like there is a bond that happens in utero, perhaps that is something that the man cannot give. But that doesn't make sense for the rest of it. And I do not want to think it's just related to gender norms and that, women and their feelings and any of that nonsense. And so I'm not sure. I know, like, Dirk, you're on the call here tonight, an adoptee, a male. Curious if you have any insight, or have you ever thought about that as you are in adoptee spaces so often? And I imagine you're in the minority as a male. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we need more guys out there.
Well, you're out
jump
there.
Into the conversation. Yeah, we just need to, buck up and get in the conversation. But I had the same thing. I never thought about my dad.
Oh.
My birth dad growing up. Always just about my birth mom.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's my birth dad that I have the relationship with now.
Interesting. I think we at the agency level, when I worked at one, focused on birth moms a lot more. I even noticed my own language. Like, I'm more likely, sometimes I catch myself, I'll say the word birth mom when really I'm talking about birth family. It's just become that ingrained, unfortunately. What other questions or comments even about the film? Nona.
Hello. First of all, thank you for putting this film on. It was, I think, like a lot of people are expressing, all sorts of different emotions, all the feels, right? Super happy, super sad when they got the results. And it made me think of a path that I went down when I matched with my genetic father, who unfortunately has a relatively common name. And I had researched him, stalked him on social media, and was getting to the point where I was just about to either call him up or send an email, or, he lives far away from where I am, so I wasn't going to show up at his house. And I think Dee and Barbara and maybe Betsy have heard this story already. In any case, I was just about to do it, and I did some work with the ANC, who wanted to validate everything. And it turns out that the one that I was researching, was living in Michigan, and the real one's living in Tallahassee. So, like, thinking back at that, of course, I'm kind of going through, okay, where did I go wrong? Where did I not take the right path or beat? Where was I not making the right decision? And I think it's like I got so excited that I found somebody that could possibly be genetically related to me, that I didn't even bother kind of testing the theory or doing any more research to prove it. Thankfully, the ANC search angel did for me, and the crisis was averted. But I think it's that we just get so, like, you're going so fast and all the emotions are there and all systems are go, and you're like, but wait a minute, there's this, we don't try those theories or try those hypotheses once we've accepted them in our heart. And I think that's the hardest thing to kind of like get used to or tread lightly on.
Yeah, wow. Which just, it kind of makes me think of adoptee loss, that we've had so much loss that maybe we'll accept whatever comes our way, like wholeheartedly, and maybe that's a combination of adoptee people pleasing, that maybe that's why we grab on so tightly. For Lisa, she had 2 failed adoptions, and I think that plays into it as well. To have 2 foundational families disintegrate, and then to have something in front of you that like just feels so good, and he wants her as much as she wants him. I wonder if that it has to play in too, in a way that's different than, for myself, who had stable adoptive family upbringing. I try to tease that out in the film just a little bit by starting with why she had found herself in Italy. It was a little bit similar, where since she grew up without structure, without family, she really just had to create her own, and so she traveled all over the place before settling in Italy finally, and now that's like her spot, because it's like she's made it so, and I think that might play into it. Barbara, hi, great to see you.
Hi, it's great seeing you as well. I'm glad that you're here with us. And this is a wonderful film. And there's so many layers to this. I feel like there's no lottery or no contest about the feelings and who should have the most in-depth feelings. But I find myself really feeling for him, because a lot of times male or maleness is excluded, as I said in the comments, where maleness is excluded from this whole childbirth and nurturing process that kids can really benefit from. And if you see it in reality, a lot of fathers are involved with their kids, or that they want to be involved. Or here's the other thing that was a revelation to me, that there are males in a family that also value family connections and are willing to be the ones to be the historians, or the ones that are, interested in the genetic genealogy. So this is where this resonates with me about him and his feelings. I mean, he searched for her, which is, again, not the narrative. And I'm glad that this story is highlighted for that reason, so that more males, and I mean it on the adoptee side as well, can feel validated that if they have any feelings at all about this process, that it's okay, and to go ahead and pursue that.
Yes, I love that. I'm proud. So after we filmed and thought that Isell was her biological father, Brian and I were flying back home. And with my film Closure, sometimes adoptees say to me, your film's cool and all, but this reunion porn stuff has got to stop, is what they say to me. Basically, let's just stop having all these happy ending adoption reunion stories, because that's not the full breadth of the reality. And I agree. I don't agree that, I'm glad that my film is out there and it's making an impact, but I also think it's really important to show more reunion stories. So when Brian and I were flying home and we're like, oh my gosh, we've done it again. We've just filmed this happy ending at the time. I still felt like I wanted to put it out there, because it was from the perspective of this birth father who's been searching for her for her whole life. And that is just a story we don't see. So I'm so grateful that the conversation has proved to amplify birth fathers and their roles. And even tonight, like, we haven't gotten into Shirley at all, which was one of the fears that I had. Would people not be able to see past, like, thinking about her? And we purposefully did not put her in much of the film, nor did she want to be, even prior to the news of the DNA test. But I'm just really glad that the film has been able to focus on people like Isell that are out there. I haven't been able to read all the comments, but I would welcome anyone to come off mute and share.
I thought it was also very beautiful that she expressed compassion for her birth mom, knowing that her birth mom, was in, however the situation happened. Just that she had it in her heart. Maybe there's a little anger there, but mostly just compassion. What was her birth mom going through? What was the situation? She obviously blocked a lot of stuff, and it must have been really tough for her. So for her to have that level of compassion is really, really incredible and beautiful.
Lisa is a pretty astounding individual, but she does know, and Shirley shared with her just her upbringing, which was that time period where secrets reigned. And so the shame is just really deep. She can't remember her pregnancy. And so, like Lisa said in the film, like, what's there to be angry about? Perhaps sadness, but the anger for me is bigger. It's the system. It's not the individual. Sharon, hi.
You have done a beautiful story. This is the second time I've watched it, and I just got so much more out of it, even the second time. But you just mentioned a DNA test. Did she find out by DNA test, or was it by just a paternity test that he was not the father? Because she got it back quickly, so was it a DNA test?
She did two DNA tests.
Okay, something like Ancestry or something, or okay.
One was Ancestry, one was another one that I'm not familiar with, but it was a DNA as well.
Okay, because I was thinking it was just paternity, and that's what I was curious about, if she was going to go ahead and try DNA where she would know. But I was just thinking, in case somebody is out there looking for her. But yeah, it's such a beautiful story either way. But they both was wonderful. I just love both of them. I just wanted to reach out and give them both a big hug. So
yes, they are both so warm, and their connection was absolutely really powerful. For me, like when I found my birth mother, we don't look alike. We're pretty different. I've known her I found her in 2012, I think. So 10 years, decade-ish. And I'm still really looking for those places where we're similar. But to see Lisa and Isell, they're both singers. They're both quite affectionate, like touching each other's face.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just, and they're both like storytellers. They both have a way with their words that is really specific. So I wasn't hoping to see something specific. And even myself, I couldn't help but think, yeah, this is a fit. But then once I learned about the DNA test, I just was so hurt for Isell upon thinking he doesn't have a daughter out there. I mean, after we left, Lisa stayed for another week and a half with him without cameras, just so they could be together. And he showed her around the city and said, this is where you would have gone to elementary school. This is where I would have taught you how to fish. This is where you would have played. Like, he had thought about that her entire life, 50 years. And that is hard to think for him. How does he come to terms with the fact that he just never had a daughter in the first place? Ghost kingdoms everywhere. Yes, Lori. Dirk, did you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I was curious kind of what your gut feeling tells you, though, as far as whether Lisa will look for her bio dad in the future. I mean, do you have a sense from your conversations with her?
My gut feeling is what I said earlier, that when Isell passes, she'll go full on to search.
Mm-hmm.
Which I am sad about, because I do think maybe there's a man out there who did just the same thing as Isell, who maybe knew and has been wondering and longing for her. But I know too many examples where that's the case. And I don't want to imprint my own beliefs onto her. And she really is content. So what does your gut say, Dirk?
I don't know. I mean, the curiosity would kill me, but that's why I moved heaven and earth to find them. my first parents. So yeah, but
I know the
I
curiosity
don't know.
it would kill me too. But again, I go back to the fact that she had 2 failed adoptions, and so to have somebody want her, I think that feeling must just be absolutely insatiable for her. Like, can't get enough.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a totally safe place. But yeah, it's very curious.
Me too. Betsy, did Isell or Lisa have different feelings about participating in the film after the DNA test? No, unbelievably, they were both steadfast. We had to have quite a few conversations with Shirley in making sure that we portrayed her in a way that was respectful. And I mean, for Brian and I, we still wanted the audience to be able to make sense of Shirley enough, but not center her so much that it distracts or detracts from the message. So that was the bigger hang up.
And it was almost congratulations that you did a great job that, oh, sorry. But you did a great job in not centering the birth mother in this case. I think she could have her own. I mean, if she was ever interested, she could have her own story in this, which goes to show how adoption just keeps on giving. It's a gift that keeps on giving, because you start off with one, like everybody starts off with a baby, but it's like, no, or the child, but it's more than that. There's other people, and then there's other perspectives and all of that, and feelings and stuff. And it can go on and just have different tangents that is important to bring into the story. I mean, this is real life, and everybody wants to paint adoption with their own manufactured brush, in a sense. But really, it's more complicated than that, as we see. So
yeah, I know she could definitely have her own story. She certainly does not want to. I think even this film, the way it is, she's given her blessing, but it's hard for her. She's has a lot of heartache, sleepless nights. There was many people who didn't know about Lisa. So it's been a really hard thing for her, and she's done her best. It's similar to actually in the film, before we learned about the DNA test stuff, but even Lisa asking both Shirley and Isell to come together so she could talk to them at the same time, which was something she dreamt of. That was a gift that Shirley gave. She was pretty uncomfortable with that, nervous, but it felt like parenting, where you just give of yourself, even if it's hard or uncomfortable. Like it was cool to be there, because I just could see both Shirley and Isell like doing something for the benefit of their daughter, even though it was quite uncomfortable for both of them.
Absolutely. And then plus listening to the painful, she told them that her, upbringing was not good. And I think that's something a lot of adoptees, I know I personally struggle with that, especially being confronted with the birth, in my case, the birth mother being so grateful. Like, if my adoptive parents were still alive, she would have wanted to meet them and thank them and everything. And then for me, it would have been difficult for me. It would have been difficult, because
I feel that.
Because it's so sacred. It's like if anyone rained on her parade, in a sense, like if anything was set out of turn to my birth mother, first of all, I would have just gone ballistic. Totally. And number two, right? And and then I'm glad I didn't. I mean, it sounds callous, but I'm glad I didn't have to. And I was able to share, that the reality, it wasn't all positive. And that's,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's something I don't share with my, why am I echoey? Like with my birth mother, my upbringing was good, but chaotic. I had 8 siblings. My parents adopted 7 of us, and then they had tons of foster kids. And of course, that's a chaotic household. But to my birth mom, everything's good. Like, she knows that I had a great life. That's it. I tell her nothing else. I don't know. I mean, to watch Lisa talk about the depth of abuse that she endured, I just can't imagine how a birth mother must feel after entrusting an agency to find a safe home for you. Her first adoptive family, they moved out of the country, and when she was 5, they just put her on a plane and sent her back to Colorado by herself with a note. So she got back to the agency, and that's just tragic. But the thing that we wanted to focus on in the film was, okay, at that point, the agency knew Isell, knew this man, who thought he was the father, had showed up several times. Why didn't they call him then? I see a couple questions about Shirley, and did she have any other kids, or did she provide any other possible names? And yes, she has other kids. She simply cannot remember anybody else other than Isell, and it's just really painful. So no. Lori, as filmmakers, what's the inkling that you and Brian get when you decide what kind of story to follow, even before the story is told? Well, with Lisa, she is a singer. She's a jazz singer. She has a lot of elements in her life that are very public. She's a storyteller. She has a blog that she has kept up for a long time, where she's talked through things like when she found her birth mother, what that was like. You saw in this film, we used her footage of going and meeting her. So partly Brian and I knew that we had somebody who would be able to articulate the nuances in the journey. And that's really important, really tall order, hard to do. I had also built trust with her. And so we knew Lisa would be great. Then the question was Isell. So I had some conversations with him. He was pretty nervous about film crews. He did a lot of research into mine and Brian's work, trying to make sure that we weren't gonna exploit. And that was a great sign too. Like, we want people who aren't just wanting fame or to be on the screen. Like, we need people who their motives are pure. And it was also nice to hear him say, like, when are you guys going to leave? Because that also made me feel like, oh, great. He really, really wants to get to know this woman, and he understands our mission of trying to educate about adoption complexities. So those were all good signs. I do get a lot of requests in my email box, like, hey, I have this story, come tell it. And another thing, I think, as a documentarian, you do need access to the moment. And so some of the stories that I get in my box are like, I have this crazy story, it happened 10 years ago. And unfortunately for film, that's not the best. And so knowing that Lisa was going to go and we could be there made it like, yeah, let's do this. Thankfully, we have a supporter who had given us funding for a film when the time was right. So we were sitting on her money, and then I reached out to her saying, I think we got something, and she was thrilled. But all of that coming together is pretty unique, and allowed us to feel like this might be a good story, and I think it was.
Do you have, Angela, do you have any other projects that's in the works? that we should expect to see in the future?
Thanks for asking. Well, I have my book. I can't believe it. I got this. This is a galley, so this is the uncorrected proof. I got this week. Can't believe I'm holding it. But this will be out in April. So please pre-order it. Pre-orders really help, you know, and it's not just for my sake. I really am trying with this book. You know, it's the cover is all colorful because I'm trying to have, you know, this is pretty much about transracial adoption, but I'm trying for it to break through to mainstream so that not just the adoption folks and foster and child welfare folks are learning about this, but it's bigger than that. So that's exciting. I'll do a little tour with the book next year. Thanks, Ty, for putting that in there. You can find it on my website and then pre-order. I'm also working on another film, and that film is based in LA, and it's going to be a feature-length film where I'm following youth who've aged out of foster care and the issue of over-medication of foster youth. There's a legislation that's happening down in LA County right now that's working to address this really problematic issue, and we'll see where that goes. But I want to show the thread of youth aging out of foster care who are highly medicated through to homelessness and individuals who experience homelessness. And then we have a lot of youth who are dying as a result of addictions that potentially started when they were in care. So that's a film that I'm working on, and then the book. The other big thing I have is my Adoptee Mentoring Society, which is a nonprofit I've just started Darcy is on the call, has been really involved with. I'm so grateful. Dirk has been involved, but I have mentored a lot of adoptees since Closure came out. And one day I just sat back and was like, wow, I have 160 adoptees that I'm mentoring. Like, this isn't sustainable. Let's build this out. So I'm thrilled to be building a curriculum to train other adoptees to mentor others and to grow it. And it's in the early stages. So anyone that wants to support in any way is so welcome to support us. I think it'll be a really helpful part of the adoption community. It's my hope that I can serve a lot of adoptees and that we can all heal a bit sooner than we have been healing in the past. I think maybe we'll wrap up. Ty, I might hand it back to you. I really am thankful for everybody just like delving so deeply into this film. My heart leaps when people engage, with such purpose and oh, Renicia, your hand is up. Sorry. Come off mute, talk to us.
Hi there.
You were off mute for a second, now you're back muted.
Hello. So I have a little bug as well, so I don't know if that's a Washington thing going on.
I'm so sick right now. Oh.
So I'm on the uphill with it. So thank you again for allowing your vulnerability of your story to expand into these other areas to give others a voice as well. So big ups and thanks and congrats to you on that. So I know that you're not going to stop. So there's going to always be something more. So rooting you on there. This kind of this definitely hits a little close to home for me too. The laws in Louisiana for me, where I grew up and my adoption took place. The laws in Louisiana just recently passed August 1st. Their offices got inundated with requests, including mine. And I'm still waiting for that original birth certificate. So it's been months now, and they're still going through the requests. So I have rehearsed these moments in my mind to exhaustion of what will I say, once I know for sure. I think my question, I put in chat, but it's probably too much going on there. But my question had to do with this idea of the ghost kingdom, and also what we say as being in the fog, and how those two things are related to each other. And how much, I know you were saying you had a concern because of the end result of what happened, if this was verifying or invalidating birth parents in a way. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but so just how those two things, may be connected, so far as these thoughts that adoptees may have in their head about who their birth parents are and their personalities based on maybe their current situation and needs. I had an imperfect adoptive family situation as well. And so I'm thinking about those hard conversations too, of how much I will delve into. Yeah, just hopefully I'm making a question here, but but yeah, Ghost Kingdom and In the Fog, and it kind of like it's seeming like she's in a fog in a sense, yet happy in the fog of maybe what that truth is out there that's still left to be discovered.
Beautiful question. Love it. You're like that client in the therapist office that asks the deep question right 2 minutes before the session ends. And you're like, well, how do I gracefully? No.
You're welcome.
So I would not say that Lisa is in the fog. She is very aware of the social classism, the racism, the classism, the social caste, the history, like all the things that I think about when I kind of assess where people are, whether they're in the fog or not, which for those of you who don't know, it's a really common phrase that a lot of adoptees use to describe their understanding of adoption as it relates to what happened to them. It's a phase that adoptees go through where you kind of begin understanding adoption as an industry versus just something that happened to you, and oh, I'm glad I got a better family. Like it's less naive, and you're kind of thinking a lot deeper about all that happened in order for your adoption to take place. Lisa is not in that place. She is fully aware. We have great conversations. What I think has happened is that when you're in the ghost kingdom for that long, it's really hard to release it. 50 years of wonder. I do think this is what fuels my work around openness. Is I don't think ghost kingdoms are bad things unless our adoptive parents don't understand what it is that we are doing, which is searching for our roots. So for me growing up, I could tell my parents, I could wonder aloud with my parents, is my birth mom Halle Berry? Is my birth dad Magic Johnson? Which was true. It's what I wondered. And they would say, no, we really don't think that's the case, but we understand why you might think that. Magic Johnson's a basketball player, and so are you. So I think that is actually healthy when we can't have the real thing. Please give us the real thing, that individual. But when you can't engage with us in that way, Lisa didn't have any of that. She didn't have anyone tempering her ghost kingdom. So it was just real solidified. And then to meet this individual who fit that, So I think that's more what's going on. Lisa's pretty active, out on her blog and stuff. I know she would have loved to have answered that question herself, but you can always ask. Laureen, I see your hand up. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, thank you. I saw your first film, Closure, at a film festival in Minneapolis, where I live, many years ago. So I'm so excited to see you again. The project that you're doing with the adoption agency in Washington, in terms of like accountability and going through those records, and I just, our adoption is more recent, 12 years ago, and I feel like there's still so much in the practice of adoption that is unacceptable. And I'm curious about how we can be holding agencies accountable now. And how do we do that? Because it's infuriating, and at least my experience has been like just a complete lack of understanding of the harm that is going on.
One thing that I have been doing, and this might not apply since sounds like you adopted 12 years ago, but perhaps, but for families who are in the process right now, I encourage them to push back on their social worker. When their social worker says things like, the birth dad was an alcoholic and he's in jail now, to say, and what positive things do you know about him? Just that. Because it helps us as adoptees to know our birth parents holistically. And it's really, like, I think about, for my files, there was something about my birth mother and her breath not smelling good because she had bad dental hygiene. And I fixated on that for my entire life. Like, oh, wow, she doesn't have good hygiene. And so when I met her, I was thinking about that, her breath. But when I met her and she laughed, so I got to smell her breath. What I experienced was like, she has the heartiest laugh in the world. What an amazing laugh. And how easy would it have been for a social worker to have written that? And how that would have changed my entire upbringing, versus I think a lot of the social workers focus on the negatives to try to explain why an adoption had to happen, perhaps. But it really does a disservice to us adoptees who have to then work really hard, or our parents help us work really hard to humanize our birth parents, to say, yes, they couldn't raise us for XYZ reason, but they love, eating pasta. That's their favorite food. That is just the simplest thing. This is in my mind because in that project, the Adoption Files Initiative, we are reading case notes from 50 years ago, and we see a lot of judgment in those files. And why does that need to be? So that's just like one area of pushback. I think it's a tall order. Unfortunately, I don't know if Lauren, you can think back perhaps to when you were adopting, but it certainly seems like it's hard for prospective adoptive parents to be in a place of social activism and advocacy when you want so badly this child. And I'm not knocking any adoptive parents on this. I just, from my decades of work, it seems like it's really hard to have both tracks going at the same time. And so therefore, for me, I hear from a lot of adoptive parents, specifically about race stuff, when their kid is like 5 or 7, they're like, oh my gosh, I live in racial homogeneity. I can't believe it. This isn't safe for my kid. What should I do? And to give to give folks the benefit of the doubt, it just makes me think, are we unable to do both at the same time? I feel like I want Lori to weigh in on this, because you both work on the Adoption Files Initiative project with me. And also, I don't know, we've worked enough that you might be able to summarize what I'm getting at better.
No, I think what you said just crystallized a lot for me too. It would be really hard for somebody who's setting out to adopt to also take on the role of social activism. So I think those of us, I think there is a role for people who have done it and can go back and say, wait, y'all need to do a little bit better. Now that I know better, I'm going to help you. And so I think there are people in that space doing that. So I'm so glad about the Adoption Files Initiative. It is an amazing project. And I remember when I first got involved with it, I thought, oh, this will just be easy. We'll just decide which is the ethical route and we'll just go with that on each file. And when I sit in on some of the meetings, the trying to find ethics on some of these cases is a challenge that I didn't expect. For example, first we need to do no harm. And in some cases, we don't actually know that people were told they were adopted. So when we come up with something like a hospital bracelet that is in the file and there's been a request to return it to the owner, we have to figure out who is the owner, which sounds like a really easy thing. Is it the mom? But then you have to figure out, is it the mom? Or is it the baby who's not a baby anymore? And does that adoptee know that they were adopted? Can we send it to them if the birth mom is not available? It's very, very thinky when we try to figure out how to make amends from each of these files.
If a prospective adoptive parent, or you're in the process, is also advocating for social justice, I feel like adoptions would go down by like half.
Yes.
I have no statistics on this, but I am very much not convinced that all the adoptions that are happening have to happen. Absolutely. So I feel like basically what you're asking, Laureen, is like, for you as an adoptive parent, would you be able to push back on social workers so much so that would possibly result in the kid staying with their family, or the kid being with you, maybe basically in like a guardianship or foster placement, while we do a lot of work to support birth families? Obviously, I know nothing about your case. I'm kind of talking bigger picture here, but in general, adoption doesn't need to happen at the rate it's happening. That's one of my pieces of work. So social workers, I wonder, how much they're hearing that, because typically the prospective adoptive parents have so much power, and it's like, I want. And so it'd be people like in your position saying, it's okay to slow down. And is that going to happen? I don't know.
Well, Angela, I do want to say, hopefully that with the fact that that there's training going out, for example, of like adoption competency training that's available, that as we as adoptees who are, and other people of the constellation that are now becoming more aware of the consequences of adoption, and we're talking about it very much so, that will become a change within, as part of the practice of work, that, for example, I would want to encourage adoptive and prospective adoptive families to be curious. This is a time for you to be able to search and receive copies of everything that's in the record right now before the adoption takes place. So please try to get as much information as you can, so that if there are positives, you can find that, you will have some access to that, because later on, this will help you to raise the child, not in a negative way, but seeing what strengths that may have shown itself or may have been put in the file inadvertently that you might need to know as that child is growing up. So maybe putting it like that and framing it into, and I always think of it as like they're the keepers of the treasure box, and so at such a time as the child, if they want to, as they get older, wants to access that box, that the adoptive parents will have that information and be able to share them with the children.
Yeah, this is why I started this project, is because when I went into the file archival room, it felt like a treasure box to me. And it also felt like I was committing a crime, because I'm like, how do I have access to all this stuff that the people who should have access to it don't even have? I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like a treasure trove. But then I feel like people like Laureen, adoptive parents, don't know that agencies have files full of stuff. And even agency workers perhaps don't know the laws around what has to be kept in there and what can be given. And that it is a real tricky law to decipher. And many agencies don't have staff specifically to do that work. And so it ends up just sitting there. But like, oh my goodness, hundreds of thousands of files here all have the potential to heal. And it's been sitting here for decades. I can't even believe it. It was just like, oh, I can't handle this. Yeah. Thanks, Laureen, for your question. I hope you heard my answer with kindness and warmth. I think a lot of my work is like walking this tightrope, because I think if adult adoptees say things in a certain way, then they're shut down, and we don't get that growth by listening to people who've been through it. I'm always like teetering, so I hope you heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have so much to learn from listening to birth parents and adult adoptees, and I'm grateful.
Thank you for listening. I know it can be hard. Okay, Ty.
Thank you, Angela. What a great discussion, everybody. I appreciate you all being here tonight. If you scroll up through the chat, I put a link for a survey. If you could just take a quick moment here, let me actually put this in a more accessible spot so you can grab it and actually have a prayer of finding it. Okay, there you go. And there's also links for Angela's work in there. I appreciate you being here tonight, Angela, and for for your work and your advocacy and spending time with us tonight. And I hope to see everyone at our next Monday Evening Speaker Series.
Thank you all. Bye from
Thank
Seattle.
you. We appreciate you.